video too, getting set up for our summer crop coming up in a couple of months time. It's going to come around really quickly. So today I'm just going to quickly show you what I've done for my homework so far from the previous video, which is talking about and planning out what seeds and I need and what vegetables I was going to plant in. Obviously I've already told you on the video. If you haven't seen that one, go back and have a look at it, what seeds I'm going to be planting in. If you see me squinting, the sun keeps coming out from behind the clouds, and because I'm in the greenhouse, it's intensifying it. So just have to excuse it as we go along today. Now, I have been down to my local red dot shop. It was yesterday or the day before, and I have picked up some of the seeds that I need. Not all of the seeds I need because I can't get all of them there, but I went through all my seed buckets, wrote down what I needed, and I had quite a big list actually of what I needed. So in this basket today is the starting of the seeds that I am collecting. So there's quite a nice little wad here, because obviously I've used most of them up last season. So I've collected up some pumpkin, some bok choy. I've got more onion here because my onions aren't doing really well, so I'm going to try those again at the beginning of spring and see how they go through the spring season. Eggplant because I didn't have any. I've got more spinach to put another lot of the spinach in through spring as well. My cauliflowers, capsicums, I didn't have any left in my boxes. The tomatoes, I did have 1 or 2 packets of the tomatoes, but there's only 75 seeds per packet, so I've grabbed a couple more of each of the tomatoes I've got. Some more sunflower seeds. The shallots, I'm going to try them again. The more tomatoes, the onions, and when I find it, more sunflowers. More cabbage. This is a different variety of cabbage than what I grew last year. This is a savoury one, which has got like the crinkly leaves on it. So I'm going to try that one this time around. I actually picked up some flowers as well. Aquaglia, I can't pronounce it. I'll put it down the bottom for you, the name of it. But that's a really pretty little flower. So I might even put a photo in so you can see it. What I did find though is last year I didn't see anywhere red cabbage, so I've got some red cabbages that I'm going to give a go this year as well. So this is the Chinese cabbage. I haven't done this one either, so that's a new variety for me. More pak choy, more cabbage. I usually get 2 packs of everything, especially when it doesn't say how many seeds are in the packet. Because there could only be, 10 seeds in there. I mean, it feels like there's more than 10 seeds, but it's really hard to know how many seeds go in the packet. So yeah, so this year I've gotten the DT brown ones, which is what I get every year, is the DT brown. And then when I went into my local Woolies where I shop here, I actually found a Yates brand. So these ones, I've never grown these seeds before. These were on special for $2, down from $4 a packet. So I'm going to give these a go. If these are any good, I might even look at using the Yates brand as well. So I've still got corn. I've still got a couple of different varieties of tomatoes that I couldn't get. I still need, I think it's zucchini, and there's a half a dozen other ones that I still need to get hold of, so I'm going to have to go to another shop, probably Bunnings or the Spud Shed or somewhere like that, to get my seeds. So now in this basket there is about $60 worth of seeds. So as I go along, I'll make up a bit of a tally for you guys so you can see how much I've spent to get myself started for this season. So at the moment, because these are all $2 a packet, and there's something like 24 packets of seeds in here, so by the time I finish buying all my seeds, I'll have spent a fair bit, but like I said, I always buy twice as much as what I'm probably going to use, so that I've still got them to put in extras, or in case, you know, I like that variety, then I've got it for the next year as well if I can't purchase them again. So far this year, on this specific summer season, I have spent $60 on seeds. So alright, so today we are going to be discussing soils and equipment. Alright, so I usually try and buy in bulk compost. Last year when I did use it for my seeds, I found it really quite heavy, and when it got it either got really wet and moist and become quite difficult for the plants to grow in, and that's what I'm noticing with the I'll show you so you can see what I mean. So this is the cauliflowers. Excuse all the aphids that are on them. They are running rampant in here. But you can see I haven't watered this in about 4 or 5 days, but it gets really quite heavy and moisture. All this mold stuff, that is the dynamic lifter that's in there. But it's hard to see probably, but it gets quite almost clay-like when it gets wet and it doesn't dry out really quickly. And on the opposite scheme of it, this is one of the empty ones I've got sitting in here, which hasn't been watered. It gets really dry, and then it's really hard to actually get moisture back into it. So, plus it's also quite, there's a lot of large pieces in there, and when you're growing seeds, that's something you don't want as well. So I have in previous years bought bags of potting mix. I bought cheap bags of potting mix, and I soon realised that those cheap bags of potting mix were not worth buying. I think I was paying $3 a bag for them. So they did work, but it also meant that I had to put in a lot more nutrients, because the nutrients didn't last very long into them. So I was using like the Eco Seaweed, and watering them with this every week or every other week. It was hard to put any other type of fertilizer. I did put a little bit of dynamic lifter onto them, but like you can see, when it gets wet, it actually does start to mold if it's not mixed into the soil properly. So that's sun. So this year I'm not going to use the bulk compost that I buy in. I'm actually going to buy a few bags of the what I actually might do is to do a mix, because I do usually do a mix of a lot of different things in my soils to make them go that bit further as well. So I've got empty bathtub out there, which is about half full with the compost from last year. So I may actually use some of that mixed in with the potting mix that I'm going to buy, and hopefully it's not too expensive to get me started. So that's what I'm going to do this year, is I'm going to go and buy some starter potting mix of some sort. I haven't had a look yet. So I'm going to get that, and I'll probably mix that in with the soil that's from my garden, so it's also, the plants are also used to that particular type of soil as well. And anything like, so I've got the 2 trays sitting here that have got the soil in them. That is being used. Anything like that, I'll mix it back into it again. Any pots that I'm finding around the place that I'm either repotting from, or they don't have anything sitting in them, or nothing growing in them bar weeds at the moment. I think I've got a couple of pots out the side here, so I'll use those as well and put that all into a big mix together. The other thing that I will be putting in there, I have started bringing home used coffee grounds again from work. So I just get a bag and I get the coffee grounds out of the machines as I go around and clean the kitchens at work. So I'll be putting coffee grounds in again. Coffee grounds are one of those things that people say you should use, people say you shouldn't use. It is all up to your personal decision. I think that because I didn't put a lot of coffee grounds in some of the seeds that I put in, I think that it made a big difference, whereas the year before I did a lot of coffee grounds and the plants were growing really quite well. So again, I'm starting to bring coffee grounds home. I've got a couple of kilos of coffee grounds already, so hopefully in the next couple of weeks, by the time I go to pot these guys up, I'll have some more coffee grounds. You can get coffee grounds, you can go to your local coffee shops and ask them for it. Most of them will just give it to you free, basically, because they're only throwing it in the garbage anyway, provided that you can pick it up when they need you to pick it up. So yeah, so coffee grounds are really good. You can use them in your soil mixes. You can sprinkle them around the garden during season, so that plants can take what they want from the coffee grounds, but not thick, because I have noticed that the coffee grounds will make it's almost like concrete when you do it too thick, and the water can't actually penetrate into the soil once it gets really hard crust. It gets a really hard crust on it. So you can mix it in when you're redoing your beds, top them up with a bit of coffee grounds. I drink coffee at home, ground coffee with a coffee plunger. I don't drink a lot of coffee grounds like that, so I might only get a cup of coffee grounds a week out of what I drink in the house. But so that goes straight into my compost, so that will help with the compost in there. The worms love it in there, so that is encouraging the worms through my compost piles. So yeah, unless you drink an awful lot of it, you do need to go and source somewhere where you can actually get quite a lot of it to make it worth using in the garden. So so that's the coffee grounds. The soils, I'm going to buy bags of potting mix this year and give that a go, mixing it in with some of my outside soil. Just have to make sure that when you are using soils that have larger chunks in it, it's always a good idea to sieve them through to get all the large chunks out, especially when you're dealing with seeds like tomato seeds, lettuce seeds and things like that are really tiny little seeds. So having some sort of a sift, whether you buy one from a second-hand shop for like $1, or whether you buy yourself a brand new one for your kitchen, and then use the one that you've got in your kitchen with your seeds. That's always, to me, that's always a good excuse to get a new one for your kitchen. They get a bit squashed and mangled up, so that's probably what I'll be looking at. Last year I used a window, we'd taken the fly wire out of one of our windows, so I nabbed that for a little bit and I sifted it through that. It was a little bit of work to get it through, but it was beautiful fine soil, which was really good, especially for top dressing, even if you're only using it as a top dressing over your seeds, so that it's a really fine coat over the top of them. So, but yeah, so something to sieve them out of, whatever type of soil you want to use. I'm going to be giving coffee grounds into it, and I'll also be adding some, I usually add a handful or two of a dynamic lifter, because I usually use this one here, and I will mix this. Yes, this is an old Ricola. It's got the thing in it. It's an old Ricola canner, but unfortunately it's all rusted, so I now, instead of throwing that away, I'm using it in here to mix up my soil. So I'll put some outside soil into it, I'll put some of my potting mix into it, I'll put some of the dynamic lifter. It is so worth buying the big bags of dynamic lifter. So I went to Bunnings. This is a 10 kilo bag here. They are normally, I think it's normally $30 for a 10 kilo bag of dynamic lifter. I actually got this one for $25 because it had a hole in the bottom of it. So the lady put it into a bag for me. I put it in my trolley and I saved myself $5 because this bag had a hole in it. I have been working out of that bag since the end of last season, so I've barely used any of it. dynamic lifter, you don't need an awful lot of it. I just smelt it. I got a big whiff of it just then. So that is what I will be using again this year. You only need a handful or so. I usually probably put 2 handfuls into this big tub, which adds more nutrients to it. Now I normally put in 1 or 2 scoops of this as well. I think these are actually quite expensive. They're about $30 odd, I think, from memory. Now I have a little bit left in here which got wet, but I probably won't be putting any of this one in this year because I have the dynamic lifter. I think that's why I was using this last year, because that was the only type of fertilizer I had at the time. So, and that stuff smells too. So, but yeah, so I'll definitely put in the dynamic lifter in, the outside soil, some new fresh potting mix that I'll get in, and whatever I get out of the containers that are already used around the place that don't have any plants left growing in them. So that's my soil. The type of soil you use is really, really up to you. Whatever you want to pay for soil, if you want to buy the really, really expensive stuff, go for it. I don't always think that you need to pay, especially when it comes to something like a soil, I don't always think you need to pay the top dollar for it because it says it's organic or whatever, you know. So that is really, it's up to you. The compost that I normally buy in is for us in Western Australia. I'm not sure what it's like for the rest of Australia. And in the area that I'm in, we have a bin, and it's a organic bin where we put all the organic waste into it. Our shire comes and collects it and then turns that into compost, and then we buy it back at $22.50 a scoop, and generally 4 scoops of that is generally about all I need for my growing season. So it's about $80 for the year. And that is a fair amount of soil to put out through my garden. So, but I do think that it is a little bit too rich for putting my seeds into. So that's why I'm going to go with the mix of a few different things into my soils this year for the seed starting. So the next thing we have to do is make a decision on, obviously I still need to go and buy all my soil, so that will be done within the next week or so. I'll go down to Bunnings or wherever I go and have a look and get what I want. So the next step from there is, what are we going to grow our seeds out of? Now, like I said before, I like to try and do everything on the cheapest side possible, because, you know, your pots and all that kind of stuff, some of them are one-time use. I don't want to be spending $6 on pots and $2 on seeds, and I end up spending more money on pots than I do actually on my plants themselves. So I'm this year using a variety of different items last year, and I will still be doing it this year. And you will have seen in some of my videos with the seeds I do have growing, the seedlings I have growing, that I grow them in kitty litter trays. Yes, I said kitty litter trays. Now I went hunting for something on a larger scale that I could put into seeds and just grow a heap of seeds in a pot. I had seen someone doing it in seed trays like this, and I thought those seed trays I think were $6 or $7 each, and I'm like, I really don't want to pay $6 and $7 for a tray. So you'll see this one has a crack in it. I paid 50 cents for this tray. So basically I pretty much left most of them, but I can just put a bit of tape around here to hold this pot together, and there is nothing wrong with this tray. Obviously we want drainage, so having that crack is not a big deal. In the bottom of them I drilled a whole bunch of holes. Hopefully you can see them. So you can see there's all those little holes in the bottom. That is my drainage. So having a crack in the side of it is nothing. These are normally $3 each. Heaps of them I paid for 50 cents each. Some of them I paid $1 for, but I wasn't going any higher than $1. because they're $3 anyway to start with. So paying any more than $1 for something that they were going to probably more than likely end up throwing out into the tip and going into land waste because it's got a big crack in it. So I have something like 30 odd of these now in here, and I'm pretty sure there's a few more around somewhere that are not accounted for. So there's around 30 of these hanging around. They are really cheap. They're actually really quite strong. The cracking would have happened because they've dropped them before or during their transport. So yeah, so if you can get your hands on a heap of these kitty litter trays, I've got these from Red Dot. You can go to Red Dot, you know, reject shops, anything like that. I mean, even $3, if you're willing to pay $3, I wasn't willing to pay $3. So now these are really quite deep pots. So I think they're 10 centimeters, 42 centimeters by 30 centimeters by 9 centimeters. The 9 centimeters is quite deep when you compare it to the normal little pots that you buy at the shop. And if you want to use these, you can use these as a cheaper version of the water trays. Okay, water trays are really quite expensive. They're between $6 to $8 as well from Bunnings and places like that. Why not just buy a kitty litter tray for $3? These are actually bigger too. They're deeper. They will hold more water for a longer length of time, especially if you need to go away or anything like that. So I'll be using the kitty litter trays again. I usually fill them 3/4 of the way with soil and then put my seeds in and then top them up when the weather's starting to come up again. So then they will be probably about 1 centimeter from the top. Sometimes if it's for anything bigger like peas and stuff like that, I will go full to the flat to the top, so that they've got as much depth as possible. And that is a part of the reason why I went with these, because of the depth of it. It gives them more root space and a lot more places to go. So I'll be using the kitty litter trays again. I will possibly be using some of these if I run out of kitty litter trays. I have a lot of seeds to get in this year. These are not very deep. The plants don't last very long in here. Which basically means if I use these little trays, I will then have to transplant from here to a bigger pot, which can be quite time consuming as well, having to do that. So, but I may have to use these. I'll see. I don't have a lot of these left anymore. I think this is about all I have. I can't remember how much I paid for these. I've had these for years. I had some purple ones as well, but over time they disintegrate pretty much. What I did buy last year is some of these. I want to try out some of these. These are the biodegradable pots. They're made of the paper cardboard stuff. So basically you plant your seeds in, you cut them into your little individual pots and you can plant them straight into the ground. So I'm probably going to give these a go as well, get these used up and just see how they go. These are not overly cheap either. I can't remember how much I paid for these, but I'm going to give these a go and see whether this is actually really worth going down this way. I'm almost thinking no, just due for the fact that every year I would have to repurchase these again. Whereas with my kitty litter trays, up until the point that they are completely broken in half, the sides chunked out of them or whatever, I can use these. This will be I think my 3rd time round in a lot of these pots. So that's where I'll be using those. But I do want to get these used up and get these a go and see what they're like. I do still have a small stack of the little tiny pots. These ones they're like about an inch and a half in depth. They are so tiny. I like to use these if I absolutely have to. Same with the little 6-pack, the 8-pack ones, only if I have to and I've run out of space for anything else. These also, same problem with these, that these have the issue of they dry out really quickly, and the plants suck up all the moisture really quickly. So they do require sitting in a water tray consistently, otherwise they dry out. And there is not a lot of space in here for your seeds. And if you want them to get really quite big like I do, I want my plants to be really quite big this year before they go out into the garden, especially because I know there's a lot of snails here, to give them the best chance they have as a big plant rather than a little tiny seedling. These are not ideal to be using, so, but if I have to, I will use those. Now, the other thing I've been doing, these little yogurt containers. I know this is not the cheapest way to buy yogurt, but I like to have a yogurt every now and again at work, so I'll buy a 6-pack of these, take them to work, put them in the fridge at work, and then once I've finished eating them, I'll bring the container home. So these, and obviously we'll wash them out. I'm going to be trying some of my veggies in these this year as well. They are obviously a much deeper pot compared to the little minis, so that'll give them a lot more space, and it's almost double, not quite double the height of them. So I have a heap of those sitting in here that I've been collecting over the last 6 months. So I'm going to use some of these. I'm just going to drill a couple of holes in the bottom, and I give these a go and see how these work for some of my seedlings as well. So I might do like capsicums or zucchinis or something like those in these this year. So that's the other types of things I'm going to be using, because obviously I am going to run out of these. So I am needing some alternative ways of seeding as well without having to go purchase a whole bunch more pots. The other thing that I bought last year, which I didn't get to try because I used all volunteer tomato plants in my garden because I was so late getting them in, is these. This is, I think it's a pack of 100. I think this was only $5 or $6. We ordered these online. They come in 3 different sizes, I think. I can't remember if this was the medium or the large. I think it was the medium. It's like a little piece of fabric, but it's actually a pot plant. So basically, you fill it up with soil. It's like a little pillowcase. Fill it up with soil, and then pop your seed in to the top. So it's going to expand once you put your soil in. I might see if I can get some soil in there. So we put soil in it, we put our seed in it, and then obviously we top it up again. And then you're going to need a tray, obviously, to sit them in to keep them upright, because they will fall over. But I'm going to give these a go this year. We bought them last year. Now this bag as well is biodegradable, so you could rip them off if you wanted to, because I think that they're really actually quite easy to rip apart. I'm not going to rip it all the way so I can use this one. So this is something else I wanted to try last year, but like I said, I didn't get my tomatoes done, and by the time I got them, everything else was planted in. So these little pillow slip things, I want to give these a go. Obviously these are going to need to sit in a water tray, so I'm going to need to make sure I have some water trays around as well. Speaking of water trays, people pay a lot of money for trays to sit their plants into, for water trays. I use anything and everything that I can find that holds water. Probably don't recognize this. This is the bottom of a washing basket. The washing basket itself was crushed, no good, so I just cut it all off around the edges. So I have to be careful when I use it because there's still some bits in here. This one actually has holes in it now because I obviously used it as put seeds in because I needed an extra tray. But this kind of thing, this holds water. it's deep enough to put a little pot in and have it sitting in water. Something like that. Your kitty litter trays, old baking trays, you can pick these up at the second-hand shop for like 50 cents. They go rusty, it doesn't matter. Bottoms of pots, you know, the pots, the water tray bit, bottom of the pots, quite often you can find these, but not the pots that go with them. Same deal, put your water in there, put your pots in it. So there's so many things that you can use and find around the house. Your meat trays, for that you get your meat in, I was using those as water trays as well. Before I got all of the kitty litter trays, I was using those as water trays to put my seeds into. Anything you can find that you can reuse and doesn't cost you any money to do it. Collect them up, give them a good wash out, and use them. Something like that you can use once. If they get wrecked, put them in your recycling bin and off they go to get recycled. And you've already reused them and they've given you they've saved you having to go and buy something as well. So yes, I'll be using these little pouches this year, probably mostly for tomatoes and that kind of thing. The bigger plants, because this will be quite a lot of space for the roots. So I'll be giving these ones a go. So obviously I'm going to need to come up with a few more water trays because I don't have many left in here at the moment. The other thing I'm going to be reusing this year is, we don't like the taste of our water that we get from here, and our rainwater is not on a filtration system, so we don't fully trust drinking our rainwater tank because it's not filtered. We have cleaned the tank out last year, but like I said, there's no filtration on it. We don't know what bacteria is actually in our rainwater tank, so that is mostly used for the gardens. If we need to, we put that onto the house. If there's a power outage or something like that, we put the generator on, or if the water gets turned off somewhere. So it's an emergency water system, plus it's used on the veggie gardens as well. So we were buying in, obviously there's the other half of this, but I've cut these off. These are 15 litre waters. They were $12, I think they're $12.50 where we were getting them from. We were buying these and going into our drinking water thing, and that was costing us a lot of money doing it that way. And then I came across at Woolies these little boys here. These are 10 litre ones for $4. So 1.5 of these is equivalent to one of these jugs. So that was costing us $6 instead of $12. So we refill these into these. There's a little bit of messing around to do it, but we've got it happening now. And then we put some glider wrap across the top with the lid on, and then put it back onto the bottle, onto the drinking container. Works really well. We're getting twice the amount of water for what we're paying for it. So we have a heap of these left over. So these will be being used this year as well. I am actually going to be using these as I can use these as my water trays as well. So I can either cut them in half this way and use them as the water trays to put all my little baggies in. So I'll cut some of those in half to do that with. It's just a matter of using a jigsaw cutter, or if you've got a really sharp knife. I will show you when I go to do my seeding in, because these will probably be cut on the day, because I won't want to cut any more than what I want to use. So they'll be used for that. I also want to use these because I want to try growing my salad greens under the veranda. I've already talked to hubby about what I can set them up on, and what I'm thinking is of using these to do that, and just cut a hole out in the top here. So this is going to be really nice and deep. This is probably about 15 to 20 centimeters worth of soil. So these are 9. So yeah, they're probably about 15 centimeters deep. So that's going to be deep enough to grow my salad greens in. So I'm going to cut the top out of here and put soil in and plant into them. Now some of them I didn't put the tops back on, but then I realized I need to keep the tops because we just pull the tops off to tip the water out, and now I'm keeping the tops to keep them watertight when I cut into the top of them. So that'll be some of these will be being used for the salad greens. Some of these I will either I'll cut some of them in half to turn them into water trays, and then if I don't have enough of my big trays to get things started in, I'll again either chop them in half again to do that, or just cut out the tops to do them as well. So you could do it this way depending on what you want to grow out of it. You know, if you wanted to grow a single tomato plant itself out of here, you could just cut the top off and fill it up with soil, and it's lots of root soil. You could use them as a pot that way. This way is probably not ideal because I don't think they'll stand up very well. But you know, things like this, yes, they will have gone into the recycling bin and being used and recycled and that kind of stuff, but why throw them away like that before I've used them myself? You know, we drink the water, we buy water this way, we choose to buy water this way because the amount of chlorine and stuff that's in the water tastes foul. We don't like the flavour, so it's either we buy cordial to cover the flavour so the kids will drink it, or we buy water this way and we'd have really nice drinking water to drink, which is cold on tap. It's not in my fridge as well, which is awesome. And for $4 for one of these, I think I don't even know how long it takes us to go through these. More in summer than we do in winter, but I have a heap of these sitting around that I'm going to use to do that with. And you know, instead of just throwing them away, I am reusing it. Once I've done with it, then I'll give them a bit of a clean out and put them into the recycling bin, and then they'll still get recycled. But I will get some use out of them as well, and save me some money. I mean, these are pretty tough, so they might even last a couple of seasons, and I might not have to, obviously I'm not going to have to buy any more if I'm using those along with these. And even if I run out of these eventually, and because we're still buying the water, we'll be using those. So I do have, I'm not sure if you've noticed, I do have my thyme and some of my herbs, and that's why I've only got the top bit, and they're down in the garden. So I grow some of my herbs and stuff out of the bottom half of these. Having the handle, it makes it really easy to move them around. This side of this piece, I haven't figured out yet what I want to do with this bit. I still can't bring myself to throw this out just yet. Every time I look at it, I go, that's cool. That's a really cool looking funnely thing. You know, I wonder what I could grow in there. So I am still working on a plan in my head whether I'm going to keep this bit or I'm going to recycle this bit. But yeah, so guys, when you empty something, take a look at it. Can I use this for in my garden? Can I use this for this? That washing basket that's broken at the top, but the bottom's perfectly good. Yes, it's an oval shape. Some of them come in squares. Can I take the side off? Can I use it as a water tray? Can I use it to put some plant seeds into it? What can I do with it? Rather than just putting it into the landfill and it just going to waste and not being used. And you know, yes, it'll get recycled. A lot of stuff doesn't get recycled because people put the wrong stuff into the bins, that kind of thing. Like you have probably noticed, I have sitting on the side here, because I do buy nice pots. These are big pots. I have 2 frangipanies that my husband bought me. I love frangipanis. They are going into these as soon as I get the soil to go into these pots. You'll have seen some of my tomato plants and my other ones. I did buy a heap of these pots last year, for the plan was to grow the tomatoes in them. They weren't overly happy, a lot of them in there. It was just too small of an area for their roots. They wanted to spread, and once I got them out of those pots, they took off. So I would have to grow other things in those pots. I do use them here in the greenhouse as babysitting pots, like you have seen in my weekly catch-ups. I have the tomato. That tomato that has taken off is doing really quite well in that pot. I don't know why this particular one's doing really well in that pot, but it is. Anything, even baskets like this, you know, you've got a heap of these baskets around, you don't know what to do with them, use them. Put some soil in them, grow some plants out of them. Don't just let them sit there and not be used. These baskets, besides having my seeds in them at the moment, I use these baskets to harvest my vegetables. So they'll either go into the wheelbarrow or I'll carry them. Or now that I've got my new cart, I'll use my cart and put the baskets into it and drag that around. Reuse things, guys. You reuse until they are physically not able to be reused. Come up with some really cool ideas. I only buy these when they're on special. They're normally $30 for, it's a 2.7 kilos of the Vanish, and there's a white one as well. I don't have one in here. This one I only paid $15 for them. I will reuse this. I'm going to reuse this to put my dynamic lifter in so that I can transport it around the garden with the lid so that I don't knock it over and spill the dynamic lifter. So that's what I'll be using this for. It's still got a little tiny bit of the Vanish in it. I can smell it and taste it. So that's what that will be used for before it goes to recycling. What else have I got in here? I even use some of my Vacola jars out here. This will be a jar with a crack in it. Yeah, there's a crack down the bottom here. I've got my bits and pieces for my retic system in here. You know, this jar can't be used for storing my food in, so I use it out here for this. I got given one of these. These is the Greek yogurt tubs, the really big tubs that you can get them in from for people that have restaurants and hotels and things like that. I don't remember where I got this one from, but I got this. I use this for in my soils to help dig, pick up soil, transport soil around. You know, just think about what you're looking at, guys, in a different way than it's just, that's just rubbish, that's just landfill. It's not. It's a pot. It is a plant pot to me. And all I need now is some sort of a knife, or I'll probably use my husband's jigsaw, which is a lot easier to cut, and it will be turned into a plant pot. You know, yogurt containers, these make great little plant pots as well. Drill a couple of holes in the bottom. You know, reuse, recycle, reuse. Thing that I use is cool drink bottles. I'll actually, if I put my seedlings out too early in the ground, coming to summer, and if they're quite little still, because I need to get them out, I will use these cool drink bottles, cut in half, upside down, makes a little mini greenhouse, gets them growing nice and happier. I did use these last year, that's why they're still in here. The fact that they're full of water, there's probably a frog in there, so I'm not touching it. Take a look at what you've got around the house already and reuse and repurpose things, and from there you will be able to grow your plants in the most cheapest way possible that you can. Alright, guys, so that's the soils. Obviously I need to purchase mine still. You guys need to make a decision on what mix and what soils and that you're going to use. Remember, only purchase to what you can afford to and what you're happy to purchase to. I will go out and get mine hopefully over the weekend and get myself sorted, because it's not going to be far away now. It's only a couple more weeks till I start planting in. See what you've got around the house that you can purpose into pots. You know, anything. These cool drink things could start out as a pot up the right way. A couple of holes in the bottom, fill them up with soil. Tomato plant will grow nicely in there for quite a few months in there. So reuse stuff, guys. Make the most out of everything that you've got and you have in your house, and just save some money. You don't have to have the most best equipment. This greenhouse, I paid $140 for it. It took hubby about 2 days to get it back together, because it wasn't quite put together properly to start with, so he's had to make some readjustments and make it all fit. So for $140, it is not the flashiest, and obviously at the moment it needs to be cleaned out. I have stuff everywhere in here, but it will be, in a few weeks time, it will be full of seed trays, seedling and seeds growing. I will have this greenhouse chock-a-block full, and which means my summer crop is going to be awesome. Everything is going to be at a decent size. This greenhouse keeps things really quite warm. It is sunny and shady. You may have seen the difference in the light coming through. Currently in my greenhouse I am sitting at about 19 degrees. Do you think I could have found a smaller one? It's the only one I could find. It was $2.50 or $3, but at least I can read this one without my glasses on. So it's 19 to 20 degrees in here at the moment. Outside temperature is a lot less than that. I need a jacket on, but in here I don't. So this greenhouse is doing the job it's supposed to do. I have got tomato plants growing in here in early to mid summer, and they are doing beautifully. I have capsicums, I have chili plants, I have a leek in here already, and they are doing really, really great in the temperatures in here. So I just need to find somewhere to hang this thing, because it's really, really big. But like I said, the temperature's growing as we stand here. So the sun is, during summer, I cannot use this greenhouse. I have actually exploded a thermometer. This is why I had to buy a new one. But it is worth having a thermometer, even a cheapie like this one that is falling apart in my hand. So I'm going to have to put it back together. So, but guys, take a look around the house, see what you can reuse and repurpose. So I'm going to get off here now. Remember to do your homework. Decide what you're going to use as your fertilizer. Decide what you are going to use as your soil, and decide what types of pots and equipment that you are going to need, and start collecting them up along with your seeds. I've obviously still got a long way to go to make sure I have all the seeds I need in the next couple of weeks, to make sure I have everything when I start planting in. So yeah, getting yourself organized way before you need to be means you have what you need right there ready to go, so it's not going to stop you and put you behind schedule getting everything in. So alright guys, there's this little patch down here. Thank you for joining me here today, and hopefully you are enjoying these videos and that you are going to join me in this process. And don't forget to subscribe and or like and share my vids around so that other people can see what's going on down here at Little Patch. Okay guys, I'll see you on the next vid.